The silver chains bit into Daphne's wrists as two guards dragged her to the front row of the cathedral, forcing her into a seat directly in the Alpha's line of sight. Her worn servant's dress stood out starkly against the sea of silk and satin surrounding her. 300 pack members turned to stare, their whispers cutting deeper than any blade. "They're making the rejected Omega sit in the place of honor," one woman hissed to her companion. "How humiliating." Daphne kept her eyes down, her dark hair falling forward to hide the tears threatening to spill. Her wolf whimpered inside her, a wounded creature that had been crying for 3 weeks straight, ever since the rejection. The cathedral was decorated in white roses and gold ribbons, every detail perfect for the wedding of Alpha Simon Blackthorn to his chosen bride, Isolde Ravencrest. The same cathedral where Daphne had once dreamed of standing in a white dress before everything shattered. Before we continue, shout out to Madeline from Long Island, New York. I appreciate your support. If you also want a shout out in my next werewolf romance story, make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and comment your name and which state you're watching from. Let's get back to the story. The head guard, Roland, leaned down close to her ear. "Alpha's orders. You will witness every moment of his union with his true mate. You will watch him pledge himself to another, and you will remember your place." Her hands trembled in her lap. She wanted to run, to shift and disappear into the forest, but the silver chains suppressed her wolf. Besides, where would she go? She had no family, no money, nothing but the servants' quarters she'd been demoted to after Simon rejected their bond. The mate bond that had blazed to life on her 18th birthday 3 weeks ago. The bond that should have elevated her from orphaned servant to Luna had instead become her curse. The organ music swelled and the massive oak doors opened. Daphne's chest constricted as Simon entered from the side altar, looking devastating in his ceremonial alpha regalia. His dark hair was swept back, his powerful frame wrapped in black and silver. He was everything an alpha should be: strong, commanding, ruthless when necessary. His gray eyes swept over the crowd and landed on her for just a moment. Something flickered in his expression, quickly suppressed, before he looked away. Isolde appeared at the entrance, a vision in white lace and diamonds. She was beautiful, of course, daughter of the Ravencrest Alpha, bred for leadership, trained in pack politics and warfare. Everything Daphne wasn't. Everything Daphne could never be. The guests rose as Isolde walked down the aisle on her father's arm, her blonde hair gleaming under the candlelight. Daphne's wolf howled in agony as Isolde took Simon's hand. She pressed her palm against her chest, trying to contain the physical pain of watching her fated mate marry another woman. The mate bond, even rejected, still existed like a raw wound that wouldn't heal. She could feel his presence like a magnetic pull, could sense his wolf even though he'd severed their connection. The high priestess stepped forward, her ancient face serene as she raised her hands. "We gather today to witness the sacred union of Alpha Simon Blackthorn and Isolde Ravencrest, to bind their souls and their packs in the eternal bonds of matrimony." Daphne bit her lip hard enough to draw blood. This was really happening. In moments, Simon would be bound to Isolde forever, and any chance of him reconsidering the rejection would vanish. Not that there had ever been a real chance. He'd made his choice clear that terrible night 3 weeks ago. "You think I would accept a nobody servant as my Luna? You think I would bind myself to weakness?" His words still echoed in her mind, sharp as broken glass. I reject you, Daphne Thorne. I sever our mate bond. You are nothing to me. The high priestess began the traditional blessing. The moon goddess, in her wisdom, has ordained that two souls shall join as one. Today, Simon and Isolde stand before the divine light to pledge their eternal devotion. Daphne watched as Isolde extended her left wrist to the priestess. There, just below her palm, was the mark. The crescent moon was Simon's family crest intertwined. It had appeared 2 weeks ago when Simon had performed the chosen mate ritual with Isolde, a magical binding that mimicked a true mate bond. The pack had celebrated for 3 days. Daphne had scrubbed floors in the kitchen while champagne flowed and music played. The priestess touched Isolde's mark with blessed oil, then reached for Simon's wrist where an identical mark should have been. But as the sleeve of his ceremonial jacket pulled back, Daphne's breath caught. The mark on Simon's wrist looked faded, dull, almost gray instead of the vibrant silver black it should have been. Is something wrong? Simon asked quietly, his voice carrying in the sudden silence. The high priestess frowned, leaning closer to examine the mark. This is unusual. The mark appears weakened. Isolde's face paled. What do you mean weakened? We performed the ritual correctly. The mark was perfect 2 weeks ago. The priestess said nothing, continuing her examination. Around the cathedral, whispers began to spread like wildfire. Daphne's heart pounded. Something was happening, something she didn't understand. Her own wrist began to tingle, a sensation she'd never felt before. She glanced down and froze. There, forming on her left wrist in brilliant silver black, was a mark. The crescent moon. Simon's family crest. The true mate mark, appearing as if drawn by an invisible hand, growing darker and more defined with each passing second. Priestess, look! One of the guests pointed at Daphne, and suddenly 300 pairs of eyes fixed on her. Daphne tried to cover her wrist, but the guards seized her arms, yanking them up for everyone to see. The mark blazed against her pale skin, radiant and undeniable. At the same moment, Isolde cried out, clutching her own wrist as her mark began to fade, the lines blurring and dissolving like ink in water. That's impossible, Simon breathed, his eyes locked on Daphne's wrist. No! Isolde shrieked. This is some kind of trick. That servant is using dark magic. She's jealous and trying to ruin our wedding. The high priestess moved toward Daphne, her ancient eyes sharp with recognition. She grasped Daphne's wrist, examining the mark closely, then turned to address the shocked crowd. This is not dark magic. This is the will of the moon goddess herself. The true mate bond cannot be denied or replaced. The chosen mate ritual was only an imitation, and now the genuine bond is asserting itself. Arrest her! Isolde's father, Alpha Ravencrest, commanded. She must have done something to cause this. No servant has the power to be a true mate to an Alpha of Simon's bloodline. I have done no such thing. The words burst from Daphne before she could stop them. She'd never raised her voice to an Alpha before, never dared to defend herself, but terror gave her courage. I didn't ask for this bond. I didn't want to be his mate when he made it clear I'm not worthy. Simon hadn't moved. He stood frozen at the altar, his gray eyes moving between Daphne's blazing mark and Isolde's now bare wrist. His expression was unreadable, But Daphne could feel something through the bond. Confusion, anger, and beneath it all, a pull he couldn't deny. The mark on Daphne's wrist began to burn, a searing heat that made her gasp. The High Priestess's eyes widened. The bond is completing itself. The mark is moving to the claiming position. What does that mean? Daphne managed to ask through the pain. A true mate mark begins on the wrist when the bond is first recognized, the priestess explained, her voice carrying through the stunned cathedral. But when the bond is consummated, or when both mates accept it fully, the mark travels to the neck, the claiming mark. It appears your bond is so strong that even the rejection hasn't severed it. The goddess is forcing the claim. The burning sensation traveled up Daphne's arm, across her shoulder, and settled at the base of her neck. She could feel the mark forming there, intricate and permanent. The pain brought her to her knees, breaking free from the guard's grip. Through the haze of sensation, she saw Isolde stumble backward, her hand at her own neck where the mark had been moments ago. The bride's neck was bare, the stolen mark completely gone. "Do something!" Isolde screamed at Simon. "Make it stop! You're mine! We were supposed to be married today!" But Simon had moved. In 3 long strides, he was kneeling beside Daphne, his hand hovering over her shoulder, as if he wanted to touch her, but didn't dare. His scent, pine and smoke and winter wind, washed over her, and her wolf surged in response despite everything. "Daphne." He said her name like he was tasting it for the first time. How was this possible? She looked up at him through tear-filled eyes, the pain still radiating through her neck. "You rejected me. You said I was nothing. You said I was too weak to be your Luna." "I know what I said." "Then why is this happening? Why won't the bond let me go?" The High Priestess spoke again, and this time her voice held a note of awe. "True mates are chosen by the goddess for a reason. The bond cannot be broken by rejection alone. Both souls must willingly sever it. And even then, if the goddess has ordained the match, she may refuse to allow the severance." She looked directly at Simon. "Did you truly sever the bond in your heart, Alpha? Or did you only speak the words?" Simon's jaw clenched. He didn't answer. Isolde's father stepped forward, his face red with rage. "This changes nothing. My daughter is your chosen mate. The alliance between our packs depends on this union. You will complete the ceremony and reject this servant again. Properly this time." "The ceremony cannot continue," the High Priestess interrupted. "To marry another while bearing a true mate's claiming mark would be sacrilege. The goddess has spoken. These two are bonded whether they wish it or not." The cathedral erupted in chaos. Pack members shouted accusations and questions. Isolde sobbed, supported by her bridesmaids. The Ravencrest wolves snarled threats. Through it all, Simon remained kneeling beside Daphne, his presence both a comfort and a torment. Finally, he stood, his alpha command rolling through the space like thunder. "Silence!" Every voice cut off instantly. Simon's eyes blazed with power as he surveyed the crowd. "Everyone will leave. Now. The ceremony is postponed until this matter is resolved." Outraged. "Postponed?" Alpha Ravencrest roared. "You dare humiliate my daughter. You dare break a sacred alliance over a servant girl with a questionable mark?" "I dare," Simon said quietly, but the threat in his voice made even Ravencrest step back. This is my pack, my territory, my decision. You will leave my lands by sunset, or I will remove you by force." The silence that followed was absolute. No one challenged an alpha in his own territory, especially not Simon, who had earned his reputation through both strength and ruthlessness. Slowly, the guests began to file out, some shooting curious glances at Daphne, others looking scandalized. Isolde had to be practically carried out, still sobbing and screaming that this wasn't over. When the cathedral finally emptied, only Simon, Daphne, and the high priestess remained. The priestess approached Daphne, helping her to her feet. "The mark is complete. You bear the claiming. Mark of an alpha now. There is no going back from this." Daphne touched the base of her neck, feeling the raised lines of the mark. It was warm under her fingertips, almost alive. "What happens now?" "That depends," Simon said, running his hand through his hair, destroying the careful styling. For the first time, he looked uncertain. "I need to understand this. I need to understand why the goddess would choose you for me." The words stung even though his tone wasn't cruel. "Because I'm so unworthy?" "I didn't say that." "You didn't have to. You've made your feelings about me very clear, Alpha." His eyes flashed at the formal title. "You don't know anything about my feelings." "The High Priestess will leave you two to talk," the old woman interrupted. "But heed my words. Fighting a true mate bond only brings pain to both parties. The goddess's will may seem mysterious, but it is always right." She paused at the door. "And be aware that a claiming mark appearing publicly like this will draw attention. There are those who would seek to harm a newly marked mate before the bond is fully secured." After she left, the silence stretched between them. Daphne wanted to run, to hide, to wake up from this nightmare. But she also wanted answers. Deserved answers. "Why did you choose Isolde?" The question came out steadier than she felt. "If you felt the mate bond with me, even a little, why did you perform the chosen mate ritual with her?" Simon moved to one of the pews, sitting heavily. He looked exhausted suddenly, the powerful alpha facade cracking. "My father arranged my betrothal to Isolde when we were children. Our packs have been allies for generations. When he died and I became alpha at 20, I had responsibilities, expectations." He looked at her. "And then you turned 18 3 weeks ago, and the bond hit me like a lightning strike. A servant girl, an orphan with no pack connections, no training, no political value." "No value at all," Daphne whispered. "That's not what I said." "It's what you meant! You rejected me because I wasn't useful enough, wasn't important enough, wasn't good enough for the great Alpha Simon." She was shouting now, 3 weeks of pain and humiliation pouring out. The guards had removed the silver chains when the mark appeared, and her wolf surged forward, lending her strength. She was still weak compared to other wolves, still untrained, but the fury made her bold. "You think this was easy for me?" Simon stood, his own anger sparking. "You think I wanted to reject my mate? I felt the bond, Daphne. I felt everything. And I knew that choosing you would mean breaking a generations-old alliance, would mean war with the Ravencrest pack, would mean destroying everything my father built. So you destroyed me instead." The words hung in the air between them. Simon's expression crumbled, and, for a moment, she saw past the alpha to the man underneath, confused, conflicted, and in pain. "Yes, I did. And I've regretted it every day since." Daphne's breath caught. What? Do you know what it's like to reject your mate? To feel the bond screaming at you day and night? To see you serving at pack dinners, head down, trying to be invisible, and know that I put that fear in your eyes? He took a step toward her. I thought the chosen mate bond with Isolde would override it, would make the pain stop. But it never took properly. The mark was always weak. And every time I tried to feel something for Isolde, the bond pulled me back to you. Daphne didn't know what to say. Part of her wanted to forgive him, to run into his arms and accept the bond, but the hurt was too fresh, too deep. Why? Didn't you tell me? Why let me think you despised me? Because I'm a coward. Because it was easier to make you hate me than to face what choosing you would cost. He closed the distance between them until he was right in front of her. But the goddess has made the choice for us now. The claiming mark is on your neck. The entire pack witnessed it. There's no going back. You don't have to sound so resigned about it. That's not what I... He stopped, taking a breath. I'm trying to say this badly. What I mean is, maybe this is the goddess's way of forcing me to do what I should have done 3 weeks ago. And what's that? Choose you. Accept the bond. Damn the consequences. Her heart hammered in her chest. The Ravencrest pack will retaliate. Isolde's father will see this as a betrayal. You said it yourself. There will be war. Let them. Come. I'm not giving you up. Not again. The possessiveness in his voice sent shivers through her, but she forced herself to stay rational. I don't know how to be a Luna. I wasn't raised for this. I don't know politics or pack law or how to lead. Isolde was right about that, at least. Simon reached out, his hand cupping her cheek with surprising gentleness. The touch sent sparks through the mate bond, making them both gasp. Then I'll teach you. We'll figure it out together. What if I fail? What if I'm not strong enough? You survived being rejected by your mate and forced to watch him almost marry another woman. You survived being humiliated in front of the entire pack. You're stronger than you know, Daphne. Tears spilled down her cheeks. She wanted to believe him so badly, but 3 weeks of pain couldn't be erased in one conversation. You hurt me. You made me feel worthless. I know. And I will spend the rest of my life making it up to you, if you'll let me. His thumb brushed away her tears. I'm not asking you to forgive me right now. I know I don't deserve it. But the bond is complete. We're mated whether we choose it or not. Can we at least try? Before she could answer, the cathedral doors burst open. Roland ran in, his face pale. Alpha, the Ravencrest wolves are attacking the eastern border. At least 50 of them, fully shifted and armed. Simon's hand dropped from Daphne's face, his entire demeanor shifting to combat mode. How far out? 15 minutes, maybe less. Alpha Ravencrest is demanding you hand over the servant girl for punishment. He's claiming she used witchcraft to interfere with the chosen mate bond. He knows that's not true. The High Priestess confirmed the mark is genuine. He doesn't care about truth, Alpha. He wants blood for the insult to his daughter. Simon's jaw clenched. He turned to Daphne. Go to my chambers. Lock yourself in. There's a safe room behind the bookshelf. The second shelf from the right. Pull the blue book. Don't come out until I come for you. You're going to fight them? I'm going to end them. The casual violence in his tone should have scared her, but instead, She felt a fierce pride through the mate bond. This was her alpha, protecting what was his, protecting her. Be careful. Something in his expression softened. I will. Now go. She ran. Through the cathedral, across the grounds, into the pack house that had been both her prison and her home. Wolves rushed past her, warriors heading toward the border, the pack preparing for battle. She reached Simon's chambers, massive rooms she'd cleaned 100 times but never entered as anything but a servant, and locked the door behind her. The safe room was exactly where, he'd said, hidden behind a false bookshelf. She pulled it closed behind her just as the first sounds of battle reached her ears. Howls, snarls, the clash of wolves in combat. The mark on her neck burned hot, and she realized she could feel Simon through it. His rage, his determination, his absolute refusal to let anyone take her from him. The bond was strengthening with every moment, tying them together in ways she was only beginning to understand. Minutes felt like hours. She paced the small safe room, listening to the sounds of fighting, praying to the goddess that Simon would be okay, that he wouldn't die defending a mate he'd only just decided to accept. The irony wasn't lost on her. She'd spent 3 weeks wishing him pain for rejecting her, and now she was terrified of losing him. Finally, the sounds of battle faded. Silence fell, broken only by her ragged breathing. Then footsteps in the outer chamber, heavy, confident. Daphne, it's over. You can come out. She pushed the bookshelf open and ran to him. He was covered in blood, some his, mostly not. His clothes torn, his face scratched. But he was alive. He was here. Without thinking, she threw her arms around him, and he caught her, holding her tight. I'm filthy. I don't care. She felt his chest rumble with a quiet laugh. His arms tightened around her, and through the bond, she felt his relief, his triumph, and underneath it all, his desperate need to keep her safe. What happened? The Ravencrest wolves are retreating. I killed Isolde's father when he tried to cross into Packlands. The rest fled when they saw their alpha fall. His hand came up to touch the mark on her neck, his fingers gentle. You're safe. No one will threaten my mate again. The certainty in his voice made her shiver. What about Isolde? She has her own pack to return to now. She's no longer my concern. His eyes searched hers. You are. You're all that matters. Daphne's wolf preened at the words, at the possessive edge to his tone. The bond hummed between them, urging them closer, urging completion. But she forced herself to step back. I need to know this is real. Not just the bond talking. Not just the goddess forcing your hand. I won't lie to you. The bond is powerful. It makes me want to claim you right now, to complete the mating and remove any doubt about who you belong to. His hand cupped her face again, making her meet his eyes. But it's more than that. These 3 weeks without you were hell. Not just the physical pain of rejection, but knowing I'd hurt you. Knowing I'd chosen politics over my mate. Over you. I'm scared. Of me? Of this. Of being a Luna. Of not being enough. Of you waking up one day and regretting choosing the servant girl over the alpha's daughter. Never. The word was a growl, his wolf pushing forward. You are my mate. Mine. The goddess chose you for me, and I was a fool to fight it. A fool to think anyone else could ever compare. His forehead pressed against hers. I'm the one who's not enough. not worthy of a mate who survived my rejection with grace, who stayed strong when I tried to break her. You did break me. I know. And I'll spend every day putting you back together if you'll let me. I'll prove that I choose you, not because I have to, not because of the bond, but because you're mine and I'm yours, and that's how it was always meant to be. The words broke something open inside her. 3 weeks of pain, of trying to be strong, of pretending the rejection didn't devastate her. It all came pouring out in sobs that shook her entire body. And Simon held her through it, his strong arms a shelter, his voice murmuring reassurances, his hand stroking her hair. When she finally calmed, she looked up at him. I don't forgive you. Not yet. I know. And I'm going to need time. Time to trust you again. Time to believe this is real and not just going to be ripped away. You'll have all the time you need. But I'm willing to try, to see if we can make this work. The relief that flooded through the bond nearly knocked her over. Simon's eyes closed briefly, and when they opened again, they were suspiciously bright. That's all I'm asking for. A chance. Just no more weddings to other people. He laughed, a real laugh that transformed his serious face. I think I can manage that. The mark on her neck pulsed warm, and she knew the bond was accepting her choice. Accepting them. It would take time to heal the wounds his rejection had left. Time to learn how to be a Luna, how to lead a pack, how to stand beside an alpha. But maybe that was okay. Maybe healing was supposed to be slow. What happens now? Simon pulled her closer, his arms wrapping around her in a way that felt like coming home. Now? Now I introduce the pack to their Luna. Now I show everyone that you're mine and I'm yours. Now, we figure out this whole fated mates thing together. He paused. And maybe, eventually, you'll let me complete the mating bond properly. When you're ready. When you trust me again. That could be a while. I'll wait. I've already proven I'm an idiot when it comes to you. I'm not making that mistake again. She smiled against his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart. The cathedral bells began to ring in the distance, not for a wedding this time, but sounding the all clear after battle. The pack would be gathering soon, expecting answers, expecting their alpha to address what had happened. They're going to hate me. The pack. They'll think I'm not good enough. Then I'll make them see what I see. A woman strong enough to be rejected by her mate and still stand tall. Brave enough to face an entire pack's judgment. Worthy enough that the goddess herself intervened to make sure we ended up together. His hand tilted her chin up. You're going to be an amazing Luna, Daphne. And anyone who can't see that will answer to me. The possessive, protective edge to his words made her wolf purr with satisfaction. This was what she dreamed of during those terrible 3 weeks. Being wanted, being chosen, being protected. Not because of politics or alliances, but because she was his mate and he was finally ready to claim her. I'm still scared. Me too. Terrified I'll mess this up again. But we'll figure it out together. She nodded, taking a deep breath. Through the bond, she could feel his certainty, his determination, his desperate need to make this right. And beneath her own fear and hurt, she felt something else growing. Hope. The mark on her neck pulsed one more time, warm and bright, a permanent reminder that some bonds couldn't be broken, that the goddess's will would always prevail, that true mates, no matter how far they strayed, would always find their way back to each other. Together then. Always. As they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, the setting sun streaming through the windows and painting them both in gold, Daphne felt the last piece of her broken heart start to mend. It would take time. There would be challenges ahead, a pack to win over, enemies who wouldn't accept a servant as Luna, and the work of rebuilding trust that had been shattered. But for the first time in 3 weeks, she felt like maybe, just maybe, everything would be okay. The mark on her neck was proof that she belonged here, that she was chosen, that she was worthy. And when Simon leaned down to press a gentle kiss to her forehead, right above the claiming mark that bound them together, she let herself believe it, let herself hope, let herself start to heal. My Luna, my mate, mine. Yours. The word was a promise, a beginning, a choice made freely despite the pain that came before. And as the mate bond settled between them, strong and true and unbreakable, Daphne knew that this moment right here, was worth every tear, every heartbreak, every moment of doubt. Because true mates didn't just happen. They were tested, forged in fire, proven through trial. And when they finally chose each other, when they finally accepted the bond the goddess had created, nothing in this world or the next could tear them apart. The cathedral bells rang out across the territory, and somewhere in the distance, wolves howled their approval. The pack was calling for their alpha, ready to meet the Luna who had been marked by the goddess herself. The Luna who bore the claiming mark on her neck for all to see. Daphne took Simon's hand, their fingers intertwining, and together they walked toward the door, toward their future, toward the pack that was waiting. She was still scared, still uncertain, still carrying the wounds of rejection. But she wasn't alone anymore. She had her mate by her side, the bond thrumming between them like a living thing. She had the goddess's blessing marked on her skin, and she had the strength that came from surviving the worst and choosing to hope anyway. Ready? Simon squeezed her hand, his eyes full of pride and promise. With you, I'm ready for anything. They walked out together, Alpha and Luna, to face whatever came next, and though neither of them knew what the future held, they knew one thing with absolute certainty. They would face it together, bound by a love that not even rejection could destroy, marked by a goddess who saw what they needed before they did. The sun set behind them as they descended the stairs to where the pack waited, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. A new beginning, a second chance, a love story that started with heartbreak but would end with triumph, because some bonds were simply meant to be, and theirs was written in the stars. Did you like the story? Do you want a part 2? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Also, tell us which state you're watching from so I can give you a shout out in the next video. Shout out to our friends from Milan, New Mexico, London, UK, Xenia, Ohio, Western North Carolina, Massachusetts, Queensland, Australia, Lewis, Scotland, Central Florida, San Jose, California, and more. Don't forget to subscribe so you can stay updated on our next uploads. Thanks for watching.